Commander Sarah Chen never expected to make history. As her transport ship docks at the massive Galactic Council station, she fidgets with her uniform collar, wondering why Earth chose a battle-hardened soldier rather than a polished diplomat for first contact. The alien delegates tower over her, some with multiple limbs, others glowing with bioluminescence. Only Princess Xillia of the Luminary approaches her with genuine curiosity. "Your species is fascinating," the crystal-skinned royal says, her voice like wind chimes. "While others see primitive newcomers, I see potential no one else recognizes." Sarah maintains her composure despite the overwhelming alien environment. The station itself defies human architecture. Gravity shifts subtly between sections, and light sources have no discernible origin. She catches reflections of herself in polished surfaces, the only human among hundreds of species. "Earth appreciates the luminary's support for our admission," Sarah responds, recalling her diplomatic training. Her hand automatically reaches for a sidearm that isn't there, a soldier's instinct she's trying to suppress. Princess Xillia's crystalline features shift into what Sarah interprets as a smile. Most species required centuries to develop space travel after discovering atomic energy. Humans did it in decades. Your adaptability intrigues us. Before Sarah can respond, a delegation of towering insectoid beings interrupts. Their translator devices emit harsh, clicking sounds as they address the princess, pointedly ignoring the human. Sarah recognizes their insignia from her briefings, representatives of the Void Collective, a conservative alliance opposed to expanding council membership. The human containment resolution remains on the council agenda. One clicks, multiple compound eyes reflecting Sarah's image. Their species has yet to demonstrate sufficient evolutionary stability. Princess Celia's crystalline structure flashes with subtle color changes that Sarah's translator doesn't capture. "Commander Chen is my personal guest at tonight's reception," she replies coolly. "Perhaps there, you might discover what my people already see in humanity." The reception proves even more challenging than the formal introductions. Exotic foods with unpredictable textures and effects line hovering platters. Conversation circles form and dissolve in patterns Sarah can't discern. Some species communicate through pheromones and color shifts entirely invisible to human senses. She finds refuge near an observation window overlooking the galaxy's spiral arm, breathing slowly to center herself. Earth seems impossibly distant now, a blue speck she can't even identify among countless stars. Overwhelming, isn't it? Princess Xillia appears beside her, crystal skin refracting starlight. Even species with centuries of membership still find these gatherings taxing. "I'm adapting," Sarah responds, straightening her posture. "That's what humans do." The princess makes a gesture, and the surrounding delegates discreetly move away, creating a bubble of privacy. Her voice drops to a whisper that somehow carries perfectly to Sarah's ears. "My people wish to form an exclusive alliance with Earth." The declaration sends ripples through the gathering, despite the princess's attempt at discretion. Nearby delegates pause mid-conversation, sensory appendages turning toward them. "This has not happened in 3 centuries, a tentacled diplomat whispers to its companion. Sarah notices the dark looks from several delegations, particularly the shadowy representatives of the Void Collective, whose 8 eyes track her every movement. Political currents she barely understands shift around her. "Why us?" Sarah asks directly, human bluntness cutting through diplomatic layers. Princess Xillia's crystalline features refract light in complex patterns. "Because when the galaxy changes, Commander Chen, we believe humanity might be the only species prepared to change with it." The diplomatic summit on Nexus Station enters its 3rd day with tensions running high. Sarah stands at attention behind Princess Xillia during the formal alliance proposal, aware of the hostile glares from the Void Collective delegation. The Grand Chamber's architecture emphasizes the power dynamics at play. Earth's small delegation relegated to a modest platform, while ancient species occupy elaborate multi-level structures. The luminary propose formal recognition of humanity as an emerging power. Princess Xillia announces, her voice carrying through the chamber without apparent amplification. Furthermore, we offer exclusive technology exchange privileges typically reserved for century-long allies. Murmurs ripple through the assembly. Sarah notes several security officers shifting positions along the walls. Not Earth or Luminary personnel, but Council peacekeepers with iridescent armor that seems to absorb light. The lead Void representative rises, shadow tech implants darkening the space around him. The Council must consider the implications of elevating a species barely capable of interstellar travel, he hisses. Humanity's violent history suggests. The lights cut out mid-sentence. Sarah's combat instincts kick in immediately. Emergency systems bathe the chamber in blood-red light as her hand reflexively reaches for a weapon that diplomatic protocol forbade her from carrying. A high-pitched whine builds in the ventilation system. Protective formation. She shouts to the Earth delegation, but her voice is drowned by panicked cries from dozens of species. Through the chaos, she spots dark figures dropping from ceiling panels, their movements too coordinated for random attackers. Protect the princess, someone shouts in the universal translator frequency. Sarah pushes through a crowd of fleeing delegates, her military training evident in her efficient movement. 3 attackers in matte black exosuits block her path. She doesn't hesitate. Diving low beneath the first attacker's energy weapon, she uses their larger size against them with a swift strike to an exposed joint. The second attacker falls to a precisely delivered blow to what Sarah hopes is a vulnerable nerve cluster. Through the swirling smoke and confusion, Sarah spots Princess Celia surrounded by her crystal-armored guards. Their defensive formation falters as a concentrated pulse of dark energy strikes them from multiple directions. The princess's personal shield flickers with rainbow interference patterns. It's a targeted extraction, Sarah realizes, vaulting over a fallen section of decorative architecture. She's meters away when the shield fails completely. Commander Chen. Princess Celia cries out, reaching toward her as a dark energy field engulfs her slender form. The princess's crystalline features distort, then vanish entirely. The station locks down within minutes. Security forces secure the chamber, but too late. The attackers and their royal prize have vanished. Accusations fly between delegations as the Council emergency protocols activate. The Earth ambassador pulls Sarah aside, her face grave. This isn't just diplomatic disaster. It's potentially catastrophic. The princess was our only true ally here. Within hours, the luminary emperor himself arrives, his massive ship docking despite quarantine protocols. His grief manifests physically, his normally brilliant crystal form dulled to near opacity. The full council assembles to hear him speak. The princess holds genetic keys to our ancient technologies. He explains, his translator struggling to convey the complex harmonics of distress in his voice. If forced to reveal these secrets, the galaxy faces grave danger beyond measure. The Council proposes a rescue fleet, but intelligence already places the princess in the dead zone, a region where conventional drives and weapons fail completely. Strategic projections on the chamber's main display show a success probability of less than 7%. The Emperor turns directly to Sarah, ignoring protocol. There is a reason we approached humans first, he says, crystal tears forming at his eyes. Your primitive technology might be the only thing that works there. The Galactic Council chamber falls silent when Sarah steps forward. The holographic display of the Dead Zone Fortress rotates slowly in the center, its imposing structure casting eerie shadows across the assembled delegates. I volunteer to extract the princess, alone. Murmurs of disbelief ripple through the assembly. The Vordan ambassador, a massive insectoid with gleaming carapace, clicks his mandibles in derision. A single human. Our special forces operate in 20s, at minimum. Sarah approaches the holographic display with calm determination. The station's artificial gravity feels slightly off to her Earth-trained muscles, but she compensates without visible effort. Another small example of human adaptability. Your special forces rely on technology that won't function there. I don't. She manipulates the hologram with practiced gestures, highlighting entry points and security systems. The fortress appears impenetrable to conventional tactics. Energy shields, genetic scanners, and automated defense systems protect every official entrance. Human special operations developed differently from yours, Sarah explains. While your civilizations were designing perfect weapon systems, we were learning how to defeat them with minimal resources. She points to a thermal regulation port barely visible on the fortress schematic. My species has centuries of experience infiltrating places we weren't supposed to access. Sometimes the smallest insertion team is the most effective, especially when no one expects it. A trilateral representative floats forward, its translucent body pulsing with light patterns that convey skepticism. The probability calculations do not support success. The dead zone negates our technological advantages. Exactly, Sarah counters. When technology fails, humans rely on training, instinct, and improvisation. These aren't quantifiable in your probability models. The Council remains skeptical until the Luminary Emperor rises. His crystalline form has regained some luster since his arrival, hope visibly strengthening his physical structure. Commander Chen displays the very quality that drew us to humans: unconventional thinking. My scientists estimate the princess has 7 standard cycles before genetic extraction becomes possible. Your conventional rescue fleet would require 9 to mobilize and deploy. The Earth Ambassador steps forward, placing the supportive hand on Sarah's shoulder. Humanity stands behind Commander Chen's assessment. One soldier, moving quickly, offers our best chance. Preparations begin immediately. The Luminary provide a small ship modified to navigate the dead zone's anomalies, its systems deliberately downgraded to mechanical operation rather than quantum processing. Sarah studies the fortress schematics, committing every detail to memory while engineers outfit her vessel. The navigation systems are primitive by our standards, explains the Luminary chief engineer, apologetically. But they should resist the dead zone's interference. Sarah runs her hand over the manual controls with appreciation. Sometimes primitive is precisely what we need. As departure approaches, representatives from allied species arrive with offerings. The Trilateral bring adaptive camouflage fabric. The Vorden, despite their skepticism, provide nutritional supplements designed for maximum endurance. The Solari offer advanced energy weapons that supposedly resist dead zone interference. Sarah accepts the fabric and supplements but declines most weapons, selecting only a combat knife, modified railgun, climbing gear, and simple explosives from Earth's arsenal. In my experience, she tells the bewildered quartermaster, the more complex the tool, the more spectacular the failure. The launch bay clears for departure protocols. The Luminary Emperor himself approaches for a final word, placing a crystalline hand on Sarah's forearm. Why do this, Commander? The risk to yourself is incalculable. Sarah secures her final equipment check before answering. Because on Earth, we have a saying, no one gets left behind. Not even a princess from the stars. The small ship departs silently into the void, a single human against impossible odds. The assembled council watches the trajectory plot as it heads directly toward the region most ships avoid at all costs. Remarkable, murmurs the Emperor. She truly believes she can succeed. The dead zone lives up to its name. Sarah's modified ship shudders as it crosses the threshold where normal space gives way to churning anomalies. Outside her viewport, stars stretch and twist in impossible patterns, spatial distortions warping light itself. The navigation console flashes warnings before going dark completely. Right on schedule, she mutters, unsurprised. One by one, automated systems fail as the dead zone's unique properties interfere with quantum processing. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuates wildly, forcing Sarah to strap herself firmly to the pilot's seat. Most pilots would retreat immediately, but Sarah switches to manual control, her hand steady on the physical backup systems the Luminary engineers installed at her request. My ancestors crossed oceans using only stars, she reminds herself, recalling ancient navigation techniques taught during her specialized training. Earth's space program had maintained these skills as emergency protocols, never imagining they would become critical in advanced interstellar travel. Sarah pulls a physical compass and sextant-like device from her pack. The tools, modified to work in space, allow her to establish position based on stellar configurations preserved in a paper notebook. No data systems to fail, no power requirements, just human observation and mathematics. 3 hours into the dead zone, her minimal functioning sensors detect energy signatures approaching. A patrol of void ships appears, their sleek designs pulsing with dark energy that somehow functions in this region. Sarah reacts instantly, cutting all power systems completely. "Let's see if submarine tactics work in space," she whispers. The maneuver draws from Earth's naval warfare history. She lets her ship match temperature with surrounding space debris, becoming effectively invisible to thermal scanners. Using pencil and paper, she calculates trajectories while floating weightless in the silent craft, the only sounds her own breathing and the scratch of lead on paper. The patrol passes within meters of her position, their advanced sensors seeking energy signatures, not cold metal drifting among natural debris. Once clear, Sarah cautiously restarts minimal systems and continues her approach, now navigating entirely by sight and instinct. The fortress planet looms ahead, a dark mass against the twisted starscape. Sarah chooses her landing site carefully. A canyon several kilometers from the fortress, providing natural cover from orbital sensors. The landing is rough, relying on manual thruster control rather than computer assistance, but she touches down intact. Sealing her partially pressurized suit, Sarah steps onto the alien surface. The atmosphere carries chemical compounds toxic to most galactic species, but human physiology proves surprisingly resistant to the combination. Her heads-up display shows acceptable oxygen levels mixed with unfamiliar gases. "Breathable, but not pleasant," she notes, adjusting her filtration system. The landscape defies conventional physics. Floating rock formations orbit low to the ground, while gravity shifts unpredictably between regions. What would be disorienting to most species becomes Sarah's advantage. The fortress designers, expecting rescue teams to rely on technology rather than physical adaptation, left significant blind spots. Sarah checks her old-fashioned compass, confirming direction despite the magnetic anomalies that would render digital guidance systems useless. Her pack contains 3 days of supplies, the minimum required for infiltration and extraction without detection. The twin suns begin to set as Sarah reaches the ridgeline overlooking the fortress. Its imposing walls stretch upward, bristling with defense systems designed to counter advanced technology. Observation drones patrol in precise patterns, their sensors sweeping methodically across the perimeter. Sarah unpacks her binoculars, simple optics requiring no power source. She studies the patrol patterns patiently, identifying the rhythm to the security systems. Most importantly, she notices the checkpoint entries bathed in purple scanning light. "Genetic scanners," she whispers with satisfaction. "Calibrated for known species." A smile crosses her face as night falls completely. "Lucky for me, humans aren't in the database." The fortress wasn't built to keep out humans. Sarah studies the structure through the night, noting every detail with practiced patience. The massive installation hums with energy that she can feel more than hear, vibrations that set her teeth on edge. Guards patrol in predictable patterns, their exoskeletons gleaming under artificial lights that never dim. Most impressive is the genetic scanner that bathes every entrance in purple light, a security measure that identifies approved species on the molecular level. The Void Collective's arrogance is their weakness. In their dismissal of primitive species, they never considered a human might reach their stronghold. "All security has blind spots," Sarah whispers, recalling her instructor's words from infiltration training. She identifies a maintenance board used for atmospheric regulation, a small opening near the base of the eastern wall, just large enough for her frame, but impossibly tight for the larger void species. Defense systems focus on official entry points, leaving maintenance access with minimal protection. During her observation, Sarah maps guard rotations, identifying a precise 20-second window when the maintenance area falls into a coverage gap. When the twin suns begin to rise, casting long shadows across the barren terrain, she makes her move. Using the specialized climbing gear, she scales the sheer wall during the calculated patrol gap. The adaptive camouflage fabric from the trilateral shifts to match the metallic surface, rendering her nearly invisible. At the maintenance port, she encounters her first challenge, a simple mechanical lock requiring a security key. "Sometimes the old ways work best," she mutters, pulling out thin metal tools no more advanced than what Earth locksmiths used centuries ago. Inside, the fortress temperature drops dramatically. Sarah navigates through maintenance tunnels barely tall enough to crawl through, encountering security measures designed to detect energy weapons and advanced technology. Her mechanical tools register as simple minerals, triggering no alarms. She disables sensor nodes using methods developed when humans still fought humans, nothing the Void Collective would study in their tactical analysis of advanced species. The tunnels eventually lead to a junction where Sarah accesses a data terminal. Her universal translator, modified to function passively without emitting detectable signals, decodes just enough information to locate the high-security detention level where Princess Celia must be held. Moving deeper into the fortress requires leaving the maintenance tunnels. Sarah emerges into a service corridor, immediately pressing herself against a wall as voices approach. Two guards pass within meters, discussing rotation schedules in the harsh clicking language of the Void Collective. Sarah holds her breath until they turn the corner, then continues toward the central section. The corridors grow wider, ceilings higher, designed for comfort rather than security. She passes laboratories with transparent walls, glimpsing strange equipment she can't identify. In one chamber, scientists examine crystalline structures similar to the luminary's natural form. Genetic extraction already beginning, she realizes with renewed urgency. As she approaches a security checkpoint, alarm systems suddenly blare, but not for her. Through a nearby viewport, she spots a containment breach in a different section. Another prisoner has attempted escape, creating the perfect distraction. Guards rush past her hiding spot toward the disturbance. Sometimes luck is the best skill of all. Sarah smiles, slipping through the checkpoint during the chaos. The detention level lies just ahead, but presents the greatest challenge yet. Biometric locks and motion sensors line every corridor, with no maintenance bypasses available. Sarah studies the security layout from her concealed position, formulating a plan that no rescue team would consider. Instead of avoiding the guards, she'll use them. The detention level presents the ultimate challenge. Biometric locks and motion sensors line every corridor. Sarah times her approach with the rotation of guard patrols, using their own authorized movements to mask hers. She remains perfectly still in shadow when necessary, her breathing controlled to near imperceptibility, a technique taught in Earth's special forces. Princess Celia's cell requires genetic authentication from high-ranking Void personnel, but Sarah noticed something during her infiltration. The cleaning drones use a maintenance override for sanitation protocols. She tracks one of the spherical machines as it methodically moves through the detention level, waiting until it approaches an unmonitored junction. With practiced precision, Sarah disables the drone using a thin wire to short its primary circuits. The device powers down without triggering alarms. She cannily repurposes its access module, connecting it to her minimal electronic toolkit to replicate the override command. Earth technology. Adaptable by design, she whispers, completing the jury-rigged bypass. When the next patrol passes, Sarah activates the module. Warning lights flash momentarily before the system registers an emergency sanitation protocol. The door to Princess Celia's cell slides open with a soft hiss. Sarah slips inside as it closes behind her. The princess sits motionless on a crystalline bed, the only concession to her physiology in the otherwise stark cell. Her usually luminescent features appear dulled, the intricate patterns within her translucent skin faded to near invisibility. A human. She gasps, crystalline eyes widening. The council sent only you. Sarah moves quickly to the princess's side, checking her for injuries. Sometimes one is all you need. Can you move? Before the princess can respond, alarms blare throughout the facility. The cell door slides open to reveal 3 void guards, their shadow tech armor absorbing light around them. Sarah positions herself between them and the princess. Stand down, human. The lead guard commands, weapon raised. Your presence was anticipated eventually, though not this soon. What happens next leaves the princess speechless. Sarah moves with fluid precision that belies human limitations, engaging all 3 simultaneously. Where the guards expect energy weapons, she delivers physical strikes to vulnerable joints no armor can fully protect. The first guard falls to a precise blow to the breathing apparatus visible on his neck. The second manages to fire his weapon, but Sarah is already moving, the energy pulse hitting nothing but air. She uses the confined space to her advantage, turning the guard size against them. Impossible. One guard gurgles before falling. Your species lacks combat enhancement implants. The third guard backs away, triggering a communication device. Sarah closes the distance with unexpected speed, disabling both the device and its user with brutally efficient strikes. We don't need implants, she tells the fallen guard while helping the princess to her feet. We've been fighting since we crawled out of the mud. Princess Celia stares at the unconscious guards in amazement. The council's strategic assessment indicated a 7% success probability for an entire extraction team. Sarah checks the corridor outside, noting increased security activity. Their planned escape route is now blocked by responding forces. She quickly assesses alternatives, identifying a maintenance shaft that appears on her memorized schematic. We need to jump, she says, pointing to a waste disposal chute at the end of the adjacent corridor. It leads to the lower levels. The princess balks at the height visible through the open shaft. The fall would shatter my skeletal structure. Sarah grins, adrenaline heightening her focus. Good thing human bones evolved on a high-gravity planet. Without further discussion, she sweeps the princess into her arms and runs toward the opening. Security doors begin closing throughout the corridor as the facility locks down. Sarah accelerates, timing her leap perfectly to slide through the narrowing gap. The princess emits a crystalline sound, something between a gasp and a song. As they plummet into darkness, the human's arms protectively cradling her fragile form. Sarah and Princess Celia emerge in the fortress's lower levels, the human absorbing most of the impact with bent knees and a controlled roll. Alarms scream throughout the complex, emergency lights pulsing in patterns designed to disorient intruders. The princess's crystalline structure trembles slightly from the shock of their descent. That was impossible, she whispers, her voice tinged with awe. Not impossible, Sarah responds, helping her to her feet. Just improbable. Are you injured? The princess performs a quick self-assessment. My structure remains intact, though several minor resonance patterns are disrupted. Sarah nods, already evaluating their surroundings, a waste processing center with numerous pipeline junctions and churning machinery. The acrid smell of industrial chemicals fills the air, but Sarah's filtration system handles it effectively. The Void Supreme will never allow my escape, the princess warns as they navigate between massive sorting mechanisms. Their entire philosophy opposes species like yours joining galactic society. Our alliance represents everything they fear. Sarah moves with purpose, consulting her mental map of the fortress. Fear makes people predictable. They'll expect us to head directly for an exit. Instead, she leads them deeper into the maintenance network, using the fortress against itself. At a control junction, she examines the layout of emergency systems. With quick, precise movements, she rearranges several connection points. What are you doing? The princess asks, keeping watch for pursuing guards. Creating confusion, Sarah explains, triggering fire suppression systems in sectors far from their position. Alerts immediately redirect security forces to the false emergencies. They progress through narrow maintenance tunnels, the princess struggling with passages designed for service drones rather than humanoid forms. At one junction, they encounter a squadron of guards approaching rapidly. Sarah pulls the princess into a small alcove, seemingly trapped. "They'll detect us immediately," the princess whispers, her crystalline form beginning to resonate with fear frequencies. Sarah quickly combines chemicals from her medkit with debris from the tunnel floor. The resulting reaction produces a dense, discolored smoke cloud that fills the corridor. The guards rush through, sensors confused by the unexpected chemical composition. "Simple chemistry," Sarah explains. "Sometimes the most effective solutions aren't technological." The fortress goes into complete lockdown as they approach the lower hangar bay. Massive security doors seal all official exits. Sarah's extraction timeline indicates they have minutes at most before the entire facility is surrounded by void reinforcements. They reach Sarah's planned extraction point only to find her ship discovered and disabled, power core removed, and navigation systems destroyed. "We've failed," the princess despairs, her luminescence dimming further. Sarah studies the hangar bay, her gaze settling on a nearby void transport, smaller than most but intact. "Not exactly," she says. What follows astonishes the princess. Sarah approaches both vessels, quickly assessing their systems. She begins salvaging parts from her disabled ship, combining them with components from the void transport. Her hands move with practiced efficiency, connecting incompatible systems with creative workarounds. "My engineering mentors would call this a monstrosity," she admits, rerouting power through manually adjusted conduits. "But engineering is about making things work with what you have." The princess watches in bewilderment as Sarah creates a hybrid craft that violates numerous design principles yet somehow functions. This contradicts fundamental unification theories. "Theory and practice often disagree," Sarah responds, completing the final connections. Humans learned that lesson centuries ago. As they prepare for liftoff, the hangar bay doors begin to open. The Void Fleet mobilizes outside, dozens of interceptors moving into blocking formations. All tactical analysis would predict they'll take the safest route out of the dead zone. Sarah initiates launch sequences, but targets the controls directly at the most turbulent region of the zone. "They won't follow us there," she says with certainty, hands steady on the makeshift controls. They value logical certainty, too much to take that risk. The Galactic Council falls silent as the battered hybrid ship docks at the central station. The vessel barely resembles either of its component crafts, a testament to human improvisation. Scorch marks pattern its hull, evidence of navigating the maelstrom that no ship had previously survived. Medical teams rush forward as the airlock cycles open. Sarah emerges carrying Princess Celia, whose crystalline form glows with renewed brightness despite the ordeal. The human commander looks exhausted but triumphant, her uniform torn and stained, yet her posture remains military straight. The luminary royal family breaks all protocol, surrounding them in a circle of light and crystal song. The emperor himself approaches, his massive crystalline form towering over Sarah. In an unprecedented gesture, he bows deeply to the human, an honor never before granted to a non-luminary. "You have done what an armada could not," he announces, his voice resonating through the docking bay. "The luminary owe you a debt beyond measure." Sarah gently transfers the princess to the waiting medical team. "I was just doing my job, Your Luminance." The princess reaches out, briefly touching Sarah's hand. "No one else could have succeeded," she says softly. "No one else would have even tried." Recovery and debriefing take 3 full cycles. Sarah provides detailed intelligence on the Void Collective's fortress and their genetic extraction technology. The Council Strategic Division recalculates success probabilities based on her mission data, their algorithms struggling to incorporate the human factors that made the impossible rescue possible. The Council Chamber later hosts a formal recognition ceremony. Species that once looked down on humans now observe with newfound respect. Even the Vorden ambassador's compound eyes reflect a changed perspective. The Void Collective representatives are notably absent, their diplomatic status under review following confirmation of their involvement in the abduction. Princess Cilia, restored to health, addresses the assembly. Her crystalline form shimmers with colors that translate as both gratitude and determination. The Void Collective believed they understood all variables, but they failed to account for human unpredictability. Where logic dictated impossibility, Commander Chen saw opportunity. Where technology failed, human adaptability succeeded. The princess approaches Sarah with a small crystal pendant suspended on a simple chain, its complex internal structure unique among luminary artifacts. This contains the genetic key to luminary space. No outsider has ever received this trust. It symbolizes not only our gratitude, but our belief that humanity represents something vital to our collective future. The Galactic Council formally establishes a new defense initiative with Sarah as its director, combining advanced alien technology with human creativity and resilience. As the ceremony concludes, delegates from various species approach with alliance proposals, their previous skepticism replaced by eager curiosity about Earth. Later, in a quiet observation lounge overlooking the galactic core, Sarah stands alone, the events of the past days still processing in her mind. Princess Cilia joins her, their reflection captured in the vast viewport. "You've changed how the galaxy sees humanity," the princess observes. Sarah watches distant stars, some possibly visible from Earth on clear nights. "We aren't the strongest or the smartest species out here," she reflects. "But we've spent our entire history overcoming impossible odds." The princess's crystalline features shift in what Sarah now recognizes as a smile. "That is precisely why the galaxy needs you." As they stand together watching the cosmos, the pendant at Sarah's throat catches starlight, refracting it into patterns that seem to map possible futures. Futures where humanity's unique qualities help navigate challenges no single species could overcome alone. When the universe says you can't, Sarah says quietly, "Humans have always answered, 'Watch me.'"